My daughter secretly stole $300 from my purse, prompting me to punish her with 2 days of extra chores, cleaning toilets, tidying the yard, and doing laundry. My husband erupted in anger, first shouting at me, then slapping my face in front of our 9-year-old son. In that moment, I decided to call 911 for help, but before they arrived, something unexpected happened that changed everything. My name is Sophia, and I want to share my story with you. It's a tale of resilience, pain, and ultimately empowerment. As I sit here in my small apartment in San Francisco, I often reflect on the choices I made and the life I've led, especially as a waitress at a fancy hotel. The long hours can be exhausting, but my job allows me to provide for my two beautiful children, Lily and Max. Lily is 15 now, a typical teenager who often challenges my boundaries. Just the other day, I caught her texting late at night, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone. I used to think this phase would pass, but it seems to grow more intense with each day. "Mom, I need this for school," she protests whenever I question her choices. I remember feeling so overwhelmed during my teenage years, and sometimes I find it hard to draw the line between understanding her and enforcing discipline. Max, my sweet boy, is 9. He's quieter than Lily, observant and perceptive. He has a knack for sensing when things aren't right. When I'm having a bad day, he'll come up to me, wrap his little arms around my waist, and say, "It'll be okay, Mom." His innocence gives me strength, reminding me of the joy that can still exist amidst the chaos. Then there's Mark, my husband, who is in his late 30s. I can hardly believe how our lives have turned out. He was charming once, full of dreams and aspirations. But as time passed, those dreams shifted, and so did he. Mark became controlling, criticizing my every decision, from how I manage the household to how I raise our children. His voice would rise over small disagreements, and I learned to stay silent to keep the peace. I remember one particular evening, returning home after a long shift at the hotel. My feet ached and my mind was spinning. As I entered our small apartment, the familiar scent of dinner cooking filled the air, but the chaos was unmistakable. Max was playing with his toys on the floor, while Lily sat on the couch, glued to her phone. The TV blared in the background, adding to the noise. "Lily, could you please help out a bit?" I asked, trying to muster some patience. She barely glanced up, muttering, "I'm busy, Mom." I sighed, understanding the battle I had on my hands. After putting my things away, I headed to my purse to grab some money for groceries. That's when I noticed it. $300 was missing. My heart sank. I knew exactly how much I had taken out for the week. I walked back to the living room, trying to keep my tone casual. "Hey, Lily, have you seen any money in my purse? It seems to be missing." Lily finally looked up, her expression shifting to guilt. "Oh, I meant to tell you. I took some for a school project," she admitted, her voice hesitant. "I didn't think you'd mind." I felt a rush of anger mixed with disappointment. "You took it without asking, Lily. That's not okay. It's about trust and respect." "But it was just money," she protested, frustration rising in her tone. "You're grounding me for this? It's unfair." "Grounding you isn't about punishment. It's about teaching you responsibility," I replied, my voice firm. I assigned her a list of chores for the weekend. Cleaning the bathrooms, doing the laundry, and tidying up the yard. "You'll complete these by Sunday evening." Lily rolled her eyes, throwing her hands in the air. "This is so dumb. I have a life, you know." As the argument escalated, I could feel my patience wearing thin. "This isn't just about money, Lily. It's about learning to ask before you take. I'm your mother, and I need you to understand that." Just then, the front door swung open, and Mark stepped in. His eyes darkened when he saw the tension in the room. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Lily took money from my purse without asking, and now she's grounded," I explained, hoping to keep it calm. Mark scoffed, shaking his head. "You're grounding her for taking a little cash? Seriously? You're being too controlling, Sophia." His words felt like daggers. "It's not about the amount, Mark. It's about honesty and trust. You make everything about rules and punishments. Maybe if you weren't so harsh, she wouldn't feel the need to hide things. Mark shot back, pacing the room. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. This is about teaching our daughter the right values. Right values, he sneered. You think you're perfect? You're the one turning my kids against me with your strictness. My heart raced as I tried to defend myself. I'm not turning anyone against you. You're doing that by being unreasonable. Our argument escalated quickly, voices rising as emotions boiled over. I felt trapped, like a caged animal. Then in a split second, everything changed. Mark's hand shot out, striking me across the face. The force knocked me back, and I stumbled, shocked and confused. Mom, Max cried from the hallway, his wide eyes reflecting fear. I quickly wiped my face, trying to shield him from the ugliness of the moment. I'm fine, honey. Go back to your room, please, I urged him, my voice shaking. As Max retreated, I turned back to Mark, heart pounding. You just hit me, I whispered, my voice trembling. I didn't mean to, Sophia, he said, eyes wide with surprise. No, you did. You crossed a line tonight. I felt the weight of reality crashing down on me. This couldn't go on. I needed to protect myself and my children. As I sat on the couch, the sting of Mark's slap still fresh on my cheek, I knew this was the turning point. I had to take action. The fear that had quietly crept into our home could no longer be ignored. I needed help. That night felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. After Mark left the room, I sat in silence, my heart racing as I replayed the moment over and over in my mind. The sharp sting on my cheek served as a painful reminder that the man I had once loved had become someone I didn't recognize. It was hard to believe that this was my life now. As I lay in bed, I could hear the muffled sounds of Lily and Max in their rooms, the normalcy of their evening routines contrasting sharply with the turmoil in my heart. I tossed and turned, unable to shake off the fear and uncertainty that loomed over me. I needed to talk to someone, but who could I trust? The next day at work, I decided to confide in my close friend and colleague, Jessica. We had worked together at the hotel for several years, and she had always been a source of support. Her kindness and sharp mind made her not just a friend, but someone I could rely on during difficult times. As I poured myself a cup of coffee in the break room, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. Jessica walked in, her usual bright smile fading when she noticed my expression. Sophia, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I hesitated for a moment before speaking, but the weight of my situation pushed me to open up. I need to talk to you about something serious. Sure, what's going on? She asked, concern etched on her face as she leaned against the counter. I took a seat and recounted everything, the missing money, the grounding, the argument with Mark, and, most importantly, the slap. Jessica listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to anger as I detailed the events of the previous night. Sophia, that's unacceptable. You can't just let this slide, she said firmly, her voice rising. You need to take this seriously. This is abuse. I know, I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. But I don't know what to do. I can't just leave. What about Lily and Max? I don't want to break apart our family. Staying in an abusive situation won't protect them, Jessica replied, her voice gentle but firm. You have to think about their safety and yours. You deserve to live without fear. Her words struck a chord deep within me. I had been so focused on keeping my family together that I had overlooked the reality of the danger we were in. Document everything, Jessica urged. Keep track of every incident, every argument, and any manipulation. You'll need this if you decide to take legal action. I nodded, feeling a sense of determination building inside me. I had to do this, not just for myself, but for Lily and Max. They deserved a mother who could protect them, not one who cowered in fear. Over the next few days, I began to take Jessica's advice to heart. I started a journal, documenting each instance of Mark's controlling behavior and outbursts. I noted everything down, the times he raised his voice, belittled me, or manipulated the kids. I spoke to Lily about her experiences, and she reluctantly shared her own secrets, how Mark often told her to keep quiet about his anger to protect me. Each revelation pierced my heart, but it also strengthened my resolve. One evening, after dinner, I decided to confront Mark about his behavior. My heart raced as I prepared for the discussion. I needed to be strong to stand my ground. "Mark, can we talk?" I said as he plopped down on the couch, his face weary after a long day at work. "What now?" he replied, already sounding defensive. "I need you to listen to me. I'm concerned about how you handle things around here. Your temper is getting out of control, and it's affecting the kids." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "You're just overreacting, Sophia. You always do." "No, this isn't an overreaction. It's serious. I'm scared for the children," I insisted, my voice trembling slightly. He leaned forward, his expression darkening. "If you keep pushing me, you'll regret it. You're the one who makes this place chaotic, not me." His words felt like a punch to the gut, but I stood firm. "I won't let this go on anymore. I'm documenting everything, and if it doesn't change, I will have to take action." Mark's face twisted in anger, and for a moment, I feared he would lash out again. But instead, he laughed, a chilling sound. "You think you can scare me with your little threats? You're nothing without me, Sophia." His words stung, but I held my head high. "I'm more than what you think I am. I'm their mother, and I deserve respect." After that tense conversation, I felt both terrified and liberated. I had finally voiced my fears, and while it hadn't gone as I'd hoped, I knew it was a step in the right direction. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I needed to reclaim my voice, not just for myself but for my children. As the days passed, I leaned heavily on Jessica for support. She helped me navigate my emotions and reminded me of my strength. The more I shared with her, the more empowered I felt. However, I knew that Mark would not take my new assertiveness lightly. I felt a storm brewing, and deep down, I feared how he would react when he realized I was serious about standing up for myself. Little did I know, the turning point in my life was coming, and it would force me to confront not just my fears but the reality of my marriage and what it meant for my family. As the days turned into weeks, I continued documenting everything. My journal became a lifeline, a place where I could pour out my fears and frustrations without judgment. But each entry also reminded me of how far my life had strayed from what I had once dreamed it would be. I longed for peace in my home, yet it seemed to slip further away with every argument with Mark. One afternoon, as I prepared dinner, I could hear Lily and Max arguing in the living room. My heart sank. They were often at each other's throats, but I knew Mark's influence played a part. His anger seeped into every corner of our lives, turning my children against each other as they fought for attention and love in a household filled with tension. "Mom, Max won't let me have the remote," Lily shouted from the other room. "Because you always hog it," Max retaliated, his voice rising in frustration. "Enough," I called out, trying to regain control. I walked into the living room and saw their faces twisted in anger. I took a deep breath, hoping to diffuse the situation. "Let's all just take a moment. Lily, why don't you go outside and get some fresh air?" As she stomped out, I turned to Max, who was still fuming. "You know how to handle these situations better, right?" I asked gently. He nodded, though I could see he was still upset. The chaotic atmosphere made me uneasy, and I felt a familiar tension creeping in. That evening, I had planned a family dinner to try and bring us together, but when Mark came home, I could already sense his mood was off. "Why does it smell like burnt chicken?" he snapped as he walked through the door, dropping his keys on the counter. "Mark, Before I could explain, he cut me off. "You can't even cook a decent meal? What kind of a mother are you?" His voice was like thunder, shaking me to my core. Lily and Max, having returned from outside, exchanged worried glances. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. "I'm doing my best, Mark. We're all trying to make this work," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "You need to stop making excuses for your failures," he spat back. "You can't just keep messing everything up and expect me to stay quiet." It was as if my whole world had tilted. My heart raced as I processed his words. I couldn't bear the thought of my children witnessing another outburst. The last thing I wanted was for them to see their father in this light. I took a deep breath, trying to hold on to the resolve I had built over the past few weeks. "This isn't about cooking, Mark. This is about respect, and I deserve it too." At that moment, something in him snapped. He stepped closer, towering over me, and I could see the anger boiling beneath the surface. You think you can just talk back to me? You think you can stand up to me after everything I've done for you? I backed away, my heart pounding. You're right, you've done a lot. But what you've done to this family isn't love, Mark. It's fear, and I won't let that continue. His expression darkened, and he raised his hand. For a brief moment, I thought he would hit me again, but instead, he let out a roar of frustration, slamming his fist into the wall beside me. The sound echoed in the room, sending Max scurrying behind the couch, tears brimming in his eyes. Get away from him, I shouted, stepping in front of Max protectively. You can't scare us like this anymore. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized I had to stop living in fear. I couldn't allow my children to grow up thinking that this was normal. Mark's rage was no longer going to dictate how we lived our lives. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Jessica stood there, her eyes wide with concern. I came to check on you, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. What's going on? She asked, taking in the scene before her. Nothing, Mark barked, his temper flaring again. But I could see the anger in his eyes wavering as he faced Jessica. No, it's not nothing, I said, my voice firm. I can't keep living like this, and I won't let my children live in fear anymore. Jessica's presence seemed to shift the energy in the room. Mark, you need to leave, she said, her tone calm but authoritative. Who do you think you are? He spat, his face reddening. I'm someone who cares about Sophia and her children, Jessica replied, unwavering. You're out of control, and this can't go on. The tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. Mark looked from me to Jessica, confusion and anger battling on his face. I took a step closer to Jessica, grounding myself in her presence. I'm filing for divorce, Mark, I finally declared, the words flowing out of me like a dam bursting. This is over. You need to leave. His eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of fear. But then I remembered the resolve that had been building inside me. This was my moment of truth. I couldn't back down now. Mark's mouth twisted into a snarl, but instead of lashing out, he took a step back, realization dawning on him. You really mean it, don't you? I do, I replied, my voice steady. It's time for a new chapter for all of us. As he stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him, I felt a mix of relief and fear. I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life, and I could finally see a glimmer of hope for the future. But deep down, I knew that the battle was just beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, and I would need all the strength I could muster to protect myself and my children. After Mark stormed out, an unexpected silence filled our apartment. I stood there, heart racing, my mind swirling with a mix of emotions. I could hardly believe I had just said the words, I'm filing for divorce. The weight of that declaration felt both terrifying and liberating. Jessica was still there, her presence a comforting anchor in the chaos. Sophia, are you okay? She asked gently, her eyes searching mine for reassurance. I think so, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm just scared of what comes next. What if he retaliates? We'll deal with that together, she said firmly. You're not alone in this. You have me and the kids. We'll make sure you're safe. As the reality of my decision began to settle in, I felt a surge of determination. I had finally taken control of my life, but I knew I needed to be strategic about the next steps. I want to file for a restraining order, I said, my voice steadier now. I need to protect Lily and Max from him. Jessica nodded. That's a smart move. We'll gather the documentation you need to support your case. You're doing the right thing, Sophia. The following days were a blur of activity. With Jessica's guidance, I collected evidence of Mark's abusive behavior, including my journal entries detailing his outbursts and manipulation. I reached out to neighbors, asking if they had witnessed any incidents or could provide statements. I also spoke to Lily and Max about what was happening, ensuring they understood that they were not to blame for Mark's actions. One evening, I sat down with my children, my heart heavy. I need to talk to you both about Dad, I began, taking a deep breath. Things have changed, and I want you to know what's happening. Lily, who had been fidgeting, looked up with worry. Is he coming back? No, sweetie. I reassured her. I'm filing for divorce, and we're going to be okay. I'm doing this to keep us safe. Max, still processing everything, asked quietly, Is he really bad, Mom? Yes, honey, I replied, my heart aching for their innocence. But we're going to make sure he can't hurt us anymore. You both have to be brave. I'll do everything I can to protect you. With every passing day, my confidence grew. I filed the paperwork for divorce and the restraining order, feeling empowered as I took control of my life. I felt the support of my community around me, friends, neighbors, and Jessica. They all rallied behind me, helping to create a network of safety. The day of the court hearing was nerve-wracking. I sat in the waiting area, my stomach in knots. Jessica was by my side, providing calming words and steadying my nerves. You've got this, Sophia. Remember, you're doing this for your kids. When it was finally our turn, we walked into the courtroom together. Mark was there, his presence heavy and intimidating. I could see the anger radiating from him, but I held my head high. I was determined not to let fear dictate my actions any longer. As I presented my case, sharing the details of Mark's abusive behavior and how it had affected our family, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. This was my truth, and I was finally voicing it. The judge listened attentively and, after a short deliberation, granted the restraining order. Relief flooded through me. I turned to Jessica, tears of gratitude in my eyes. Thank you for believing in me, I said, overwhelmed by the support I had received. As I left the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had taken the steps to free myself and my children from the toxic grip of Mark's control. It wouldn't be easy, and I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them. In that moment, I understood the true meaning of strength. It wasn't the absence of fear, but the courage to confront it. Together, Lily, Max, and I could build a new life, one filled with hope, love, and freedom. The road ahead was uncertain, but I finally felt ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that we were not alone.